Hey everyone, my name is Levi and I have maladaptive daydreaming disorder. I also have a cat on my lap, so... Firstly, I apologize about how weird my hair looks. I don't control my hair. My hair controls me. Today I want to talk about something interesting that I've noticed, especially when it comes to school or in terms of learning or having to focus or studying. Like when you have maladaptive daydreaming, it just makes everything awful, and I wanted to touch upon that today. So I did my paramedic studies here in Hout Bay, and the institution that I did it through was really great because they didn't care where you're from or what qualifications you have or anything like that. So it's not like university where they're like, oh, you need to have maths level 260,000 and have an average of 90%. Like, none of that stuff, which I appreciated because they're the only institution who are like, we don't care about any of that stuff. You come here, you prove yourself, you graduate a great medic or a great close protection officer. Yeah, so I was absolutely thrilled at the opportunity, and when I got here, I was in absolute heaven. That's why I'm still here. I moved back. Medicine to me is such an important topic, and I absolutely love science and medicine. So, I was like, there's no way that I'm not gonna focus in class. I'm gonna take in everything, and all the weeks that I'm here, I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to enjoy this entire course. It's just, yeah, I had high hopes. And I think it's important to mention that back then, this was about a year and a half ago, I didn't know I had maladaptive daydreaming, by the way. You're here for 6 weeks, okay? So 2 weeks you sit in the classroom from 8 to 4 or 5, I think. And granted, there's a ton of breaks in between. It's very casual. Like, you can stand up and go to the bathroom if you want to. You can go to the store if you want to, all that type of stuff. They treat you like an adult. For 2 weeks, you do theory. Then the third week, you do your practicals. So you learn how to actually do first aid, how to do some surgical crike, how to do the thing where you help someone who's choking, and all of that type of stuff. So you learn the physical smaller parts of being a medic. And then at the end of week 3 you write your examinations. Then in week 4 and 5 you do practicals. So in the entire week you take shifts on the ambulance, and you're also in class practicing for your big practicals. So your big practical is where you role play. So you arrive on scene, you go through everything, they say, okay, your patient is displaying these symptoms, there you go. So you have to physically interact with like doll thing, I don't know, it's like a lifelike thing that has breathing sounds and heartbeats and all that type of stuff. So for 2 weeks you go through all of the scenarios, all the different illnesses, all that type of stuff with the mannequin, that's the correct term. You're also on the ambulance or you're at home studying. And then in the final week, in week 6, you do all of your examinations. So you do your written exams, you do your practicals. If you failed any of your smaller practicals, you can redo those. You do your drugs exam, and then you do your big practical. So you arrive on scene, you get some symptoms, there you go. One thing that I noticed in the first 2 weeks when we did our theory, I would lose focus really easily. I would just catch myself being zoned out or not being able to focus on what's being said to me and things like that. And I just thought I was tired. So what I did was I would eat really well, I would drink supplements, and I would also buy a ton of energy drinks, a ton of Red Bull. And I just noticed that it didn't do anything for me. None of that stuff helped me focus better. And now, a year and a half later, I know that it's because of maladaptive daydreaming that I couldn't focus. Because every time someone would say something, or someone would tell a story or something like that, my brain would just go off on its own. Then week 4 and 5 came, where we had to do these scenarios. You have a template that you have to study, which is really not that bad. It looks way worse than it is. And then you have to do shifts on the ambulance. And these are 12-hour shifts. So I think I had 2 day shifts and 1 night shift, if I remember correctly. But it's 12 hours each, which is a lot of time that you are on the ambulance, you are among other medical professionals, you are on scene, you're physically working with real live patients, you're doing the things that you are being taught to do. Before I arrived on scene, we would hear something like, okay, we have a call coming in for a patient who is, let's say, unresponsive. My brain would start racing. And my mind would be like, okay, this is everything that could go wrong. This is what you need to do. I would go over these things over and over and over. And then when I arrived on scene and I saw the patient, I would freeze up. I wouldn't freeze because I was scared. Not at all. I had very amazing teachers and very amazing instructors being there with me. The thing is that what happened is I would start thinking. My mind would immediately be like, okay, what happened to this person, and what amount of pain is this person in? What should I do? Should I talk to my instructor or should I just jump in? All that type of stuff. So for me, it was really difficult because I remember at one stage I had a patient who got pushed off of a train, and he was in a lot of pain. I'm not going to go into details, but my instructor had to tell me like 3 or 4 times to get on the ground and to hold C-spine. So when you hold C-spine, you hold their neck in place, their head in place, so that they don't move their neck around because they might have injured their spine or their neck. Every time he would tell me, I'd be like, okay, I need to do this. Like, I'd hear him tell me, but my mind would be in these thoughts. Like, my thoughts would just be racing. And the entire time I'd be like, okay, but like I'd overthink, I'd overanalyze, I'd overthink everything. And eventually when I got it right, it was like, thank God. I just, my instructors became worried about me because after every shift when we were on the ambulance driving somewhere or driving back home, I'd be very, very quiet. And I wasn't quiet because I was traumatized, not at all. The things that I saw on scene didn't affect me at all. Yes, they were bad, they were awful, and some of these patients, I don't even know if they survived, but I wasn't traumatized. My mind was just going crazy with thoughts. I was overthinking, I was overanalyzing, all these types of things. So my instructors checked up on me. They were like, let's just sit down, let's talk. And I remember telling my one instructor, it's not that I'm affected negatively by these things, I just cannot stop thinking. Like, I'm constantly in my own thoughts, and maybe it's the anxiety that I was talking, but also I know for a fact now, a year and a half later, it was most definitely maladaptive daydreaming that had an effect on this. So as a medic, it's extremely difficult for me to actually act, because as soon as I need to do something, my brain immediately anchors me right where I am and overthinks about everything that's supposed to happen. And I think that's such a big problem with maladaptive daydreaming, because our thoughts are so loud. So yeah, please let me know if you guys experience the same. Like, have you ever been in a situation where you were supposed to act, but instead of acting, all you could do was just stand and think? It doesn't have to be high pressure or traumatic. It can be something like, I don't know, delivering a presentation in school or something like that. My paramedic course and my paramedic training here in Hout Bay was made 5 billion times more difficult due to my maladaptive daydreaming. Because I remember when we were practicing some of the smaller practical stuff, my instructor at one stage took off some seal from the oxygen canister, and he told this story in class. And I remember he told the story, but I couldn't remember the details, and I couldn't remember what he did about it. He tricked me. So he took off the seal while I wasn't looking, and then when I tried to work with the oxygen canister, I couldn't get it right. And he was like, so I talked about this in class. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry. I just, it's very frustrating. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you would like to see more maladaptive daydreaming content in the future. And yeah, please take care of yourselves. Make good choices.